The term fluffy has recently become a popular adjective used to describe the physical makeup and attitude of women of a particular body type in Jamaican society. In the chapter Evolution of the Fluffy Ideal in Jamaica, Pierce Dunbar and James Bateman state historically, Jamaican women primarily of African ancestry are known to have and celebrate their voluptuous, full bodies. Hey, welcome to Late Night Cocktails. I'm your host, L.A. Wade. The confidence that arises from having a bigger body size, referred to as fluffy, this love and acceptance for fluffiness have been a protective mechanism against the influence of the Western thin ideal. Further, the term fluffy seems to have literally and figuratively evolved to a new body ideal known as the thick ideal. I think I'm a thick girl. I think I'm a thick girl, in which, your curves are embraced and fat is distributed in the right places, such as the hips, the thighs, the buttocks. Several factors have been identified as the culprit for this body ideal, and the media being one of them, like here we are. The Western media is thought to be the main contributor to the transformation. The lyrics from dancehall and calypso songs suggest that the local and regional media play a major role in this transition. So when I go right now into the tip of the situation, according to a 2017 Cornell University study, people are judged differently depending on who they are. Too fat in the medical world is objective, but you can measure it. But in the social world, it's not. It's subjective. I'm just going to pause there and introduce, Donna Savage, sensual coach, sensual and well-being coach, yes. Right? And Dr. G, tapping in from Louisville, sex therapist. Hey.
How goes it?
We're so happy to have you both here. Thank you very much. Welcome to Late Night Cocktails. How can you help, illuminate this topic for us?
Want me to go first?
Donna can go first, because ladies first, right?
That's cool.
Well, for me, it's about well-being and confidence, no matter what your skin, no matter if you're big, small, color, it doesn't matter. It's about confidence in your skin and not being labeled by what other people says.
But I feel like the word fluffy is something that is really endemic to Jamaica. Would other people around the world refer to themselves as fluffy and understand what that meant?
You know what? Jamaicans come up with very calm word to make their women feel loved no matter what size.
I love that.
Right? And so fluffy is an endearment of girl, you look good. Right. Fluffy me, when you think of fluffy, think of a plush animal, a plush bear. You know what I mean? All you want to do is just hug them and just feel nice and squeeze them.
Right.
So that's the terms of endearment as a Jamaican people use. And Jamaican women and men make the woman feel loved no matter what.
Yes.
I mean, especially if you go dancehall, you're in a dancehall environment, you have something to hold on to. Because I have this term of, we need some handles.
Well, you know what's funny? I was watching this TED Talk, and that supermodel who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, she talked immensely about being seen as a larger woman and how much it required a unlearning of how she saw herself. Dr. G, what do you think about it being a subjective term and how people can take it on as a badge of honor?
Well, we have to look at ourselves, how we were raised, and again, like Donna was talking about, the cultural perspectives of things. I grew up in America. I've had the luxuries of touring the world at a young age as a military brat, right? My parents were in the military, and understanding what different bodies look like at a younger age, and also understanding the differences between how America views shame and versus other cultures like Jamaica, so on and so forth. It's in the songs, it's in the dance. Here, twerking wasn't really a good thing for, women with shape and stuff like that until a white woman did it. And then now it's going viral, but we've been twerking from Africa for the longest time, right? In other cultures, and we appreciate that.
It's interesting that you make the reference to white women, because the study continues to say that for white women, the thinner they were, the more likely they were to be married and have higher family income and wages. We find consistent patterns for white Americans across outcomes and over time. For white men, though, there was a penalty for being too thin and for being too fat. For white women, thinner was nearly always better, And for African Americans, the researchers found that the patterns changed over time. So in 1979, where more people were more similar, meaning the white men and black men were similar, the white women and the black women were similar, something happens around 1997 where the pattern kind of shifts. And for African Americans in the late 1990s, people seem to have become more accepting of larger bodies. But that's not true for whites. So I find that interesting. And so what I did was I like pride myself on the fact that I know all kinds of people and I love all kinds of people. And I've invited my friend Lynette, who is a fluffy, happy white woman who is married. So screw those people who think they don't get married. You can find love no matter your size, no matter who you are. And I welcome her to the space. Let's welcome Lynette to Late Night Cocktails. Hi, Lynette.
Hi, Ellie.
Thank you for coming so much. This is Donna. And we've got Greg over here, Dr. G.
Hey, Lynette.
So Lynette, tell us a little bit about who you are. And I know you've been eavesdropping a little bit, so what you think about the topic and your own personal experience. And it's kind of a way of like breaking open Pandora's box, which I know you brought a little item that when you're ready to talk about that, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, so I'm Lynette. I am obviously a fluffy girl. I have been a fluffy girl my entire life. Currently, I am a therapist in my personal life and have my own journey of how I kind of got to that point through self-love and through the experiences of kind of being a big woman in our society.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were overhearing some of the things that we were talking about, especially the part about it changing in 1997, around the 1990s, about the narrative changing to it being an embracing of thickness versus before, would you say that you felt a change in your own life where there was definitely more of a struggle in the beginning and then it transitioned into something different?
I think that I grew up in a really small community where I didn't ever really see that embracing of big bodies.
Oh.
Maybe when I moved more into an urban setting, I could see a little bit more of that, but never from my own people. I never really saw that embracing from other white people. I had that embracing from other cultures, but not from my own community.
Right. So to the research point, white women aren't typically having that experience. Mm-hmm. Well, another thing that you didn't get to hear us eavesdropping about is that there's this taboo thing in our community that talks about the fact that little tiny black men are always with what they call big fat white women. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand it. And where does it come from? And who are these women to take these men? And no, meanwhile, they're not choosing them. Let's start there. But how has that been experienced? And please let me know if this is hard to talk about because I want to be sensitive to that.
Okay. I think that our society in general has a desire to put people in boxes, to put people where they feel they belong and kind of stereotype people in general.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that point. I think that in my own experience, that has definitely happened, even in the healthy relationship that I'm in now. I've had a lot of trash in my life, but now I'm not in that point. I'm in a very stable, loving, happy relationship. And even people close to us are still not understanding of that relationship. They want to stereotype or put us in a box where he's just with me because I can provide him with sex or money. So
or a green card.
Or yes, immigration. Right.
That's what they're
exactly.
thinking, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the juxtaposition between how your life was before to now, what are some of the things that you would say about the harder times that we can understand? Is this a good time to reach for the ring?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I always ask a guest to bring something that represents a prompt in their life to tell a story about the topic. So if you could pass this to Lynette.
Thank you, Donna. So I brought a ring with me because I was trying to think of something, a story to share that was a little bit humorous, but can also highlight I don't want to say sadness, but the negative side of these situations. You know, it's not always funny, the things that happen. But I brought a ring because on numerous occasions, I have been proposed to by strangers, by partners that maybe I've been with for 2 weeks, by people I've never even met in my life online, those kind of things. I've been proposed to on many different occasions. And I attest that to I'm a big woman and the assumption of desperation that comes along with that. I can remember a specific time I was standing outside an apartment building waiting to be buzzed in. And a guy literally just came up to me and told me, I'm looking for marriage. Are you down? And I was like, are you? Like, what is happening right now? And in the moment, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't really consider that sadder part of it. I thought it was kind of funny. These experiences that I had that might now where I'm at a different place in my life, I can reflect back and realize that actually really wasn't funny. It was funny. It has some humor to it, but it's not exactly a funny situation for somebody to just assume that desperation because of the size of your body.
Right. I've heard you mention before about how your body was used as a weapon against you.
Yeah.
Your own body was used as a weapon against you. Can you speak to that?
So I can remember, like, growing up in the small town, I didn't really have any great feedback about my appearance. And even moving into now a more urban setting, I was searching for that validation for myself, to feel loved or cared about from other sources, from men, obviously.
Sister, you're not alone on that one.
Right? So I use my body as that. I recognize my body can get me that attention. It can get me those feelings of love in the moment. So I was able to use that. I know you're saying my body used against me, but I think I used it against myself, right? I think that I used that body to attract attention, to feel good about myself, and then at the end, didn't end up feeling good about myself. And I was stuck in that cycle of not really knowing where those feelings come from, having to learn that comes from inside, it's self-love first before somebody else can love you.
Right. Dr. G, do you resonate with anything that Lynette's saying?
I'm still taking all the experiences in, but I do have a question though. You growing up in a small community versus where you are today, how has that transition been for you, as far as sexual and just developing as what you consider yourself a loving woman? How has that changed over time?
I think that, like, I was in a different urban setting before, and that was really difficult for me because I was really developing my idea of who I was and that picture of who I could be in that moment. I was trying to develop myself into a woman, and I didn't know what that really meant. So that transition at that time was hard. To move to even a more urban setting where I'm at now I left because of the reputation that I had built for myself back in my home city. So I had used my body so much that I had developed a reputation in a smaller city where that can really stick with you.
Yes.
So I made the choice when I got out of a really shitty relationship to move here into an even more urban setting and really develop myself into who I wanted to be. But when I first moved here, I fell back into those old patterns of searching for love from other places, because what's a new setting? A new setting isn't anything different if you haven't done the work yourself.
Right, Donna. Donna is a wellness coach.
Yeah. You know what? I'm curious though. What is it that the ring represents? I mean, you took it out of the Pandora, but what does that represent? Like, I'm real curious.
I think it represents that that assumption that other people had of that desperation, but also the desperation I had for myself to find that connection or to find love, even if it was in a really shitty place or if it wasn't really what love was. So I think that's that sign of desperation that's going into the box that I no longer have.
Which I would like to say that is not just something reserved for fluffy girls. I think women all over the world have that sense of trying to discover who they are. I call myself Cocktales with LA, the adventures of a recovering sex addict, because I'm very aware that I used my body to barter for love. And I guess by standards, to that sports model's point, who says, like, anyone who's 8 is a plus size model, a size 8 is a plus size model. Well, then I guess I'm a plus size model as well. But obviously our bodies are different. And so we have different experiences. And I can't tell you how much of a blind spot it is, how culture teaches you how to look at other people or not see other people. Right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that I see you, I love you, I think you're amazing. And you mentioned something about using your body, and that like me, when I'm off the wagon sometimes, sex can be real fun, right? And so there was a part of our lives where we explored things about ourselves that would tap into, like, fetish, kink, and all of these different things. So I want to bring in some men who have, they've maybe participated with some fluffy girl love, maybe not from the perspective of fetish, but let's let them talk for themselves and find out and join. Let's bring them into the party, shall we?